All right, man, you already know what it is. It's your boy Tommy Guns, and we are back at it again. It's the Quote Goats podcast. Do me a favor. I know this is not the first video of mine that you've watched, but even if it is, please go ahead, give your boy a like, subscribe to the channel, jump in the comment section, join in on the conversation because we are doing this. You're going to get at least 3 videos of me a day reacting to, pop culture, breaking news, whatever is, going on in the discourse on social media. So let's get into it. As we all know, there is record-breaking fires going on in California right now. Very, very tragic situation. The fires are like 0% contained. Because California has no water, and some people are blaming it on climate change. Some people are blaming it on, priorities, of leadership in the government, DEI, and, so on and so forth. But what I want to talk about is your boy Trump, because people kind of get at him when he says, he has a way of wording things that is kind of abrasive, and like liberals like to jump on him when he says anything. But a lot of the times, over time, he ends up kind of being right. And apparently this is another instance where he was kind of spot on with what he was talking about. Because a few months ago, he went on the Joe Rogan podcast and he had a few things to say about, wildfires maybe breaking out and how he tried to like warn Gavin Newsom, blase. But my boy broke it down pretty good. So let's get into it.
Last night, I had to evacuate my home in LA because of the fires. The effects.
And I sped it up a little bit because, he's kind of long-winded, but, let's get into it. You can slow it down if you would like, but I like it a little sped up.
Of which you can see right above me. Upon reflecting, I remembered a conversation that Joe Rogan had with Donald Trump before the election about the state of wildfire management in California. It's very easy to think of wildfires as something that Mother Nature just inflicts upon us. But we have an influence over both the intensity and the frequency of these fires. And Donald Trump pointed out that there's 2 things that we've done in California that might be exaggerating the effects of these fires. The first is our policy around water management, and the second is our policy around clearing deadwood in our forests. Check this out.
Los Angeles, you can't get proper amounts of water.
Right.
And it's unbelievably expensive. And they're actually thinking about rationing water. Can you believe it? I was in the farm court country with some of the congressmen. We're driving up a highway. And I say, how come all this land is so barren? It's farmland. And it looked terrible. It was just brown and bad. I said, but there's always that little corner that's so green and beautiful. They said, we have no water. I said, do you have a drought? No, we don't have a drought. I said, why do you have no water? Because the water isn't allowed to flow down. It's got a natural flow.
Now, these are these, liberal policies that states like California implement. And like California is probably the most godless, most liberal place on the face of the planet. If you're trying to find a liberal policy that puts, human beings and progress on the back burner in the name of like environmentalism or some, bleeding heart cause, it's California.
From Canada all the way up north, water, more water than they could ever use. And in order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. I could have water for all of that land, water for your forests. Your forests are dry as a bone.
Yeah,
okay?
Dangerous.
That water could be routed. You could have everything. Oh, not only dangerous, billions of dollars a year they spend on forest fires.
Now let's look at specifically what Trump was referring to here. In 2023, California implemented what's called the Fall X2 policy. This is a policy that's designed to redirect water away from areas that endanger a specific species of fish called the Delta smelt. Proponents of this policy argue that the Delta smelt are important.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like, Gavin Newsom was so worried about this little fish. And let's be honest, man, for like wildfire, like California is known for having a wildfire season where every year for months, like acres and acres of land just burn. Like every year. You know, in my opinion, what's going on there is kind of has like biblical implications. Like I think Hollywood is kind of a like the epicenter of demonic energy on the planet, but I won't get into all of that shit. But, you know, it seems like from what this guy is saying that, you know, the fires can be, they're not necessarily supernatural or even climate change driven. It's just bad management and bad decision making on the part of the government.
To indigenous populations, as well as important for the overall health of certain other endangered species in that area, like the Chinook salmon or killer whales. And that sounds good, but let's look at what the cost of protecting the Delta smelt actually is. In 2023, we dumped 195.5 billion gallons of water into the Pacific Ocean. That's water that could have been used for firefighting or watering farmlands. This is all happening while we're focusing on scarcity conservation-based policies, while we're dumping $200 million worth of water into the ocean to protect a relatively niche species.
$200 million of water. And I think this is like, don't get me wrong, I'm no like water specialist, but I think like this is water that is like, you know, it's not like salt water, because, you know, people say that like, yeah, California is like right next to the beach. It's so much water. Why can't they just use the sea water at the beaches to just put out all the fires? But I think there's like problems with the salt in the seawater and corrosion, and you know, if you use that water, like not only are you gonna like damage whatever you're pouring it on to put out the fire, you're gonna damage the actual stuff that you're using to like transport the water, because it's so salty and corrosive. But so this is water that they could have, this is like essentially like rainwater that they could have collected and used to put out, had a surplus of, and used to put out the inevitable fires that are going to happen every year. And your boy Trump tried to warn Gavin Newsom, but they hate Trump so much. They are so deranged when it comes to this guy that they can't take anything he says at face value and say, hey, maybe we should look into that. They immediately have to attack it and say, oh, he's just saying this because of this, because he just wants to have something to say about us. No, the guy tells it like it is. Yeah, he can be abrasive, but, you know, sometimes, you know, leaders ain't all, you know, gumdrops and flowers and roses and shit. You know what I'm saying? He says what you say, what you have to say that needs to be done, and, you know, do it. That's what I don't like about how soft society is and about how liberals think and operate, because they operate from the wrong place. They not using they brains. They're not using logic. They don't live in reality. They live in their feelings. It's like feelings over facts for them rather than facts over feelings. And that never, in the long term, that just doesn't, it's not going to work out in the long term. Yeah, it's going to feel good, warm and fuzzy at first. Like, oh, we did something for the smelt, for the environment. But look at the environment now. Look at what the humans are going through. All these people have lost billions of dollars in real estate, in their livelihoods, their memories, their pictures, where their families grew up, burned down and they have no insurance because miraculously the insurance companies pulled their fire insurance months ago. You know, who knows what's going on with that. But yeah, man, I just wanted to cover that because I thought it was very interesting. But y'all get in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you agree with me. Maybe you have another point to add to the conversation. But if you found value in the video, I would appreciate it if you give me a like, subscribe, and again, I read all the comments. I will reply. So let's talk about it. And appreciate y'all for tuning in. I'm Tommy Guns, and I see you guys on the next one. Peace.